Welcome back to the Cal Park Bros podcast. Jason and I are simply de-accelerating from a very spirited discussion about sexual assault and the separation of celebrity and man regarding the Bill Cosby decision. In segment 2, we're going to talk about the Major League Baseball season so far. Jason, damn you. You are determined for us to talk baseball on this podcast, which means I am now determined to have to pay attention more than I probably would. I can't have the excuse that the NHL playoffs are also going on because Tampa Bay is done kicking everyone else's ass. So far, there have been a lot of high notes, frankly, from Major League Baseball this season so far. I was going to start with a highlight that I can objectively tell anybody, despite my Cubs fandom. And the first thing that I noticed is that the White Sox are supposed to be dead in the water. Like every month I turn around, it's like, oh shit, there's another guy on the Chicago White Sox that has gotten hurt. And yet somehow, even despite your very ancient manager, your favorite team, the Chicago White Sox, is leading the American League Central, despite all the reasons why they shouldn't be. What are some other highlights that you've noticed this year?
Oh, we're gonna come back to that. I'll save that for last. But now that you brought it up, we can make it like the White Sox sandwich with the White Sox with the bread. And we'll talk about the Cubs too, but not in the way you probably like. But I tell you what, man, yeah, it's been an interesting season so far. Some stuff that's even happened before, kind of highlights with the Major League Baseball moving the All-Star game from Atlanta to Denver because of their, we'll say, protest, for lack of a better term, against the voting rights laws that changed in the state of Georgia. Also, the Cleveland Indians are announced they're going to change their name and logo after so many decades of doing so. They're going to announce what their new name and logo are before the 2022 season. Also, some pretty cool rule changes that were applied to the last 2020 shortened season. Whenever they go into extra innings, there's going to be a runner on second base starting every half inning for the offensive team. Also, all doubleheader games are only going to be 7 innings long to kind of help preserve people like that. Also, for about a month, there was a big deal about the cheating pitchers and using their foreign substances to get better grip and better spin on the ball. And anybody caught doing that, they'll get like a 10-game suspension. There actually was somebody busted for that, whose name I forget off the top of my head. But we also seen some people get pretty outlandish when it comes to their demonstrative nature in showing that they didn't have anything. Not too long ago, Max Scherzer got to the point he had his pants unzipped and ready to pull them down to show people he didn't have them. Now, some of that was just him being an idiot. He's kind of a spirited, hothead guy, and Joe Girardi, the manager for the other team, kind of accused him, and that two bulls going at each other almost started a bench clearing brawl because of it. So that was pretty cool there. Something we mentioned before is the amount of no hitters that happened. Again, this is like 3 or 4 episodes ago when we talked about it. And there was a lot then. So as of right now, and the All-Star game is actually tonight, so we're in the All-Star break, there have been 7 counted no hitters. 7. And there are 2 more that don't count. And the reason why they don't count is because they took place in one of those 7-inning games I mentioned, and the Major League doesn't recognize them as actual no hitters, even though it happened. So if you do want to include those, 9 so far in only 3 months of the season. 9. That's a lot, bro. And I think as far as highlights go, as far as individual success, you can't go anywhere without mentioning Shohei Ohtani. He's leading the league in home run, leading the entire league in home runs. He has 33, and it's not even close. The closest person to him is 28. I know it's only 5 homers, but in a home run race, 5, that's a big lead. So, and that close person is Vlad Guerrero Jr. with 28, like I said. And in speaking of the All-Star game, he's playing in the game tonight. He made the All-Star team as a hitter and a pitcher. First time in history for that. And as far as team successes, man, well, I'll hold off on that for a minute, let you get some stuff in. But what do you think about the baseball season? I know you don't pay as much attention to baseball as I do, but besides the White Sox, what kind of things have stood out to you so far in this 2021 MLB season?
Well, I know we started off calling them highlights, but I look at things like the amount of no hitters to be considered lowlights, because for me, the casual fan, that shit does not resonate with me. Unless you're like Randy Johnson, you should not be up there with that many no hitters. I'm sorry. Um, that does not resonate to me as a highlight. Um, I if anything, it might be a potential secondary low light, because now you've got this tiers for no hitters where it's like, well, technically it was a no hitter, but due to our history, we can't count it. I'm like, is it a fucking game or not? Jason, that's ridiculous.
I have to agree, and most other baseball fans also agree that it is kind of stupid. I mean, the game was completed; it's a countable game. The other team didn't get any hits. It's a no hitter.
So the stats from those games: if I get a hit, if I get a home run, if I get a strikeout, if I get a walk, if I get a fucking error, my fucking Golden Glove bonus is on the fucking line here. This shit count, right?
It does count, yeah.
But in Phantom Zone, according to Rob Manfred, because this is his house, right? He's still commish, right? The shit don't count. I am dumbfounded by that. I think you had mentioned that earlier this week, and it just didn't resonate with me. I'm like, wait, what do you mean it don't count? Is it?
It is not an official no hitter. So when you look up the total no hitters so far this year, it's only 7, not those other 2.
I mean, the whole thing
Yeah.
about double headers being shortened, that's just common sense. That's simply conceding to reality. And those are welcome changes. I just don't understand. And if there was ever a sport that needed more nuance and in relation to certain stats, it's Major League Baseball.
I'm gonna bite. What do you mean?
I mean, why it you know baseball sports writers love to put asterisks next to things, and it seems
Deservedly
and
so in some cases.
I mean, if it's literally the reason why the sport even has a pulse in the year of our Lord 2021, I don't think it deserves an asterisk. Baseball sports writers should be thanking the lucky stars for every ounce of andro that McGuire and Royds that him and Sosa ever took. So we have the luxury of complaining about no hitters in 2021 because of one Mark McGuire and one Sammy Sosa, who actually saved baseball, much in the way Magic and Bird saved basketball.
Moving on.
So yeah, these are highlights. Um, low lights for me. The Chicago Cubs are a fucking mess.
That's a highlight, sir.
No, it's a highlight for you because you're a fucking hater. But it's a low light for me because this team has no identity.
Their
For me,
identity is the lovable losers.
no, that's not an identity. That's a
It's
that's a
not. It
that's a
was their
tag.
identity for 108 years, sir.
That's a tagline. That's not an actual identity.
For 108 years?
What
That's not an identity?
a highlight for me is that Chris Bryant is actually good again. Good enough to get in the All-Star game. Good for him. But yeah, team basically needs to figure it out and decide, okay, are we actually going to set this whole thing ablaze, or are we going to try and retool again? This half-ass shit that they're doing right now, not thrilled about it. Nothing about this squad says that they're going to be competitive in the next year. So That's really all my feedback.
I'd say they're not going to be competitive for the next 109 years, but maybe that's hoping. Maybe that's me hoping I'll still be alive to see that 109 years. But
Well, they've won. They've won since before. They've won earlier than the White Sox. So I would think you should
yeah,
show.
yeah. You know what? You know what? Yeah. Okay. So for the longest time, that's fine. You guys can have that mental. That's fine. Because for how many years was it that the White Sox were the last team to win the World Series? So you know what? If you want to enjoy that mental for 5 years, feel free.
I mean, listen, if karma can bite USA basketball in the ass for the Angola beatdown in '92, then karma can absolutely beat the White Sox for your less than stellar jovial attitude currently.
First of
So,
all, the USA basketball team that's subject on its own potentially. If they lose another exhibition, folks, you might be able to guarantee we'll talk about that in episode 14. So, but speaking of team successes, there have been, of course, surprises and disappointments in the standings. I'd say the surprises for me are the Mets winning the National League East right now. They weren't a very good team last year, even in the shortened season. The Reds actually in second place in their division, a winning record. What? The Giants. Everybody coming in this season was looking at the American League, National League West. Like, okay, the Dodgers are the defending champions. The Padres gave them hell last year. They're going to do it again this year. And guess who's leading that division, Terrence? The Giants. The Giants. Yeah. So the Giants clearly a surprise. Don't get me wrong. The Padres and Dodgers are having great seasons, but the Giants are doing even better. That's definitely, I'd say they're probably the biggest surprise of everybody. The Red Sox making a comeback from last year. They were a horrible team last year, maybe some injuries. They're doing well. Disappointments, though. I do have to agree the Cubs, taking any bias out of it, seriously, I'd say the Cubs and the Cardinals in that division, the NL Central, are huge disappointments, I'd say. I think a lot was expected of them. Cubs especially, Cardinals too, with some of the offseason things they've done in the last 3 years, and they're not even a winning ball club. The Twins, to some degree, I think they are supposed to be the team in the mix with the White Sox in the AL Central, along with Cleveland, maybe. Cleveland's not that bad, but the Braves. The Braves might be the biggest disappointment. They were actually projected to do better than the White Sox this year. It was like the Dodgers, Braves. It was some other team I forget in the American League, and then the White Sox.
Yeah,
That actually made me mad.
The injury that that team, I don't expect much out of them right now.
Well, that injury just happened though. So they were already doing bad before that. But yeah, I agree. Their season's done now at this point, which in a way could be good for them to get a better draft pick going forward. Not that they're tanking or anything, but yeah. But of course, as I mentioned, I will end with my White Sox. Yes, folks, my Chicago White Sox are leading the American League Central, despite the injuries, especially 3 injuries to some key players. Luis Robert, who may come back in September. Eloy Jimenez, thanks Cubs. Eloy Jimenez, who might be actually is on the verge of coming back. He'll probably be back. I'd be shocked if he didn't come back this month.
Yeah.
If not next month in August. So, and then unfortunately, Nick Madrigal's out for the season due to I believe a hamstring. Had surgery on that. That one was the one that made me flip a table over. Because they had, like I said, all these injuries. Because they had Adam Engel dealing with injuries, Adam Eaton dealing with injuries, and then the 2 I just mentioned before. And then all of a sudden, Madrigal gets hurt. Everybody's thinking, okay, he might be out a little bit, a few weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, whatever it may be. He'll be back. And then I think a day later, they say, oh, he's out for the year. He had surgery. The table I had sitting over here, I just flipped it over because I was just like, are you serious? I thought that was going to be the one's going to send him downhill because he was an important hitter. Even though he was a 9 hitter, he was a 300 hitter, never struck out, But despite that, and despite all the hate and all the jokes people want to make about Tony La Russa being the manager, as because he's old or old school, And admittedly, I didn't like Tony La Russa from his days at the Cardinals. I didn't like him, couldn't stand him. Not that I like him now, but the one thing I will say when it comes to when they fired Renteria before, there was 3 things I said that I want that they need to hire with this new manager. It needs to be a proven winner. Tony La Russa is.
Check.
Exactly. A Spanish-speaking manager, because for all the Spanish-speaking players we have, check. The third one, honestly, I really don't recall, but those are the first 2. And he actually, whatever the third one was, he satisfied that as well. So even though I still didn't like Tony La Russa, the fact that I couldn't complain because he met all 3 things I wanted from them to hire, I'm like, well, there you go. So, and then the whole drinking thing came up, and that added fuel to the fire when it comes to people's jokes. But again, despite all that, the injuries, despite people not crapping on our manager when the season started, White Sox are in first place in the AL Central, second best team in the American League. So, despite some ups and downs, man, I can't complain. That for me, that's my big highlight. And as Rick Hahn, the general manager of the White Sox, said, it's World Series of bust. He said that before the season started, and I agree with him. It's World Series of bust. If we don't get there, winning, we'll talk depending on who they play, but if they don't get there, I agree with him. This season's a bust.
Yeah. Well, I hope, frankly, that the White Sox do well. I hope that.
Do you, though?
Yeah, because the only way the rivalry between the White Sox and the Cubs is actually fun, I need 2 things to happen. Number 1, I need y'all to figure out attendance. And then number 2.
Whoa, stop. No. What do you mean by that?
It means exactly what I mean by that.
No. Okay, no. When you say y'all, you mean y'all who?
You, the Chicago White Sox, at your new Comiskey.
Whoa, bro. Hold on. Have you seen the attendance numbers for this year so far?
How do they look?
After they've been able to get full attendance?
Okay, how do they look? How full is that fucking stadium?
Full. You know why? You know.
It hasn't exactly been the case for you. So
I'm about to tell you why. I'm about to tell you why. Because here's the difference between White Sox fans and Cub fans.
There's only one.
Well, the big difference: Cub fans will still go out and show up to Cub games when they suck for one reason. And yes, this is going to be an offense to Cub fans. I admit that, because Cub fans are drunks. They'll go to Wrigleyville and go to the games for the party, the celebration, and drinking, even when the Cubs aren't very good. White Sox fans aren't doing that. We're not going up and paying money to support a team that's not very good. I'll openly admit that. I mean, I'll still go, but clearly the numbers dictate that that's not the case. We'll go to support winners. So, now granted, this is the first game, and you look it up, please. When the first game happened, again, that they're allowed full capacity. I think the stadium holds about 32,000 people, I believe. They were right around 28, so they were there. So yeah, the attendance thing is not an issue. Teams just need to be winning, and they are. People are showing up. I don't know what the numbers are since then, because every stat I see talks about includes the entire season, as opposed to up till now. So yeah, attendance is an issue when the team's winning. So
okay, I'll just hit you with this. And this is straight from ESPN.
I'm gonna stop you right now. I'm gonna stop you right now, because I guarantee you, whatever you're looking at is the entire season.
Here's the average right now.
Because that's the entire season. That's the entire season. That's the entire season. The entire season. Okay, before they were even allowed to have any fans at all, or they had limited capacity. What I'm saying is the numbers since they were allowed to have full capacity. And if you can find that stat, including those games, and that's it, great. I guarantee those numbers are for the entire season.
I'm just referencing the average.
And I don't want to hear the average, bro, because that's for any team.
The average is relevant.
For any team. No, it's not.
It's just because you don't
because you're trying to rip on the White Sox for low attendance numbers, and I agree with you. They do. When they don't win, fans don't show up. When they can't show up because the government doesn't allow them to show up, Terrence.
Well, now it's the government's fault. It's JB Pritzker's fault now. Get out of here.
Yeah. When the state says that arenas aren't allowed to have any fans, that's the government. And was that not the case in the state of Illinois, where they weren't allowed to have fans up until a certain point?
I mean, I just find it fascinating.
Yes.
The Cubs are at 19,698, for 45 games, whereas the Chicago White Sox have 43 games. So I guess it's those additional 2 games
No.
making the difference.
See, now you're changing the argument. You're changing the argument. You're changing
No,
the
the
argument.
argument is the same.
No,
I'm
it's
just
not,
not
because you're comparing the White Sox fan base to the Cubs fan base. When the statement was, we need to get the attendance under control. I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I'm saying is find numbers for the White Sox when fans are actually allowed. I'm not comparing them to the Cubs because I just explained that difference. I'll say that to the high heavens, that people just go to drink and get hammered, and Major League Baseball game is a fun thing to do while you get drunk and hammered in the stands. Because guess what? Because you don't have to drive home. You can get on the train and be hungover on the train throwing up there. Because that's the best way to get away from that dump of a stadium. See, because now you made it personal, Terrence.
Oh, I made it personal.
Yes, you did. You made it personal.
did I push a button? I'm sorry.
I'll admit that anybody that knows me knows that it's what pushes my buttons is any Cub fan ripping the White Sox in any way whatsoever. That will set me off in a heartbeat. I'll admit that. But that's all right. I don't hate you or anything. I'm just saying.
I think, if anything, that now the 2 things that you need to address is your trigger response to when people call out the less than stellar attendance numbers. And then the second thing I actually need from the Chicago White Sox is to win. Because honestly, I do think it makes for a better rivalry when the White Sox are good and when the Cubs are good. Right now, it's not great because while the White Sox are kicking ass and taking names, Cubs are meh. Cubs literally lost 10 in a fucking row. I'm sick.
It was 11.
Thanks. Thank you. See, we like stats here on the Cal Park Bros. Even the stats we don't like.
We just like reality, sir. And reality, really, I do agree with you. The rivalry is better when both teams are good, which unfortunately in recent years hasn't always happened at the same time. But I think the rivalry is still great, just because it still is. It's Cubs versus White Sox. If you go to a game, what I've been to several of those, including in Wrigley, the atmosphere is electric. No matter who's the better team, no matter who's good, who isn't, don't matter. It's electric no matter what happens on the field. One group of fans is cheering, one group of fans is booing. If you've never been to anybody listening, if you've never been to a Cubs versus a White Sox game, and if you're like a Chicago native, you should go. The energy in the stadium is phenomenal for all 9 innings. It's probably top 2 in my best sports experiences of all time.
Yeah, I would say all jokes aside, there's no such thing as like a bad stadium experience.
That is completely untrue.
Well,
I can give you one right now.
What's a bad stadium experience to you?
The one time I went to Wrigley Field.
Okay.
And no, hang on. I do want to say that's not just me ripping on the Cubs. That's facts, true facts. Because of that, it's because of the stadium setup.
The year, Mr. Ross.
I didn't hear that. It wasn't 2016. It was either the year after they won or the year after that. It's either 17 or 18.
Got it. Okay. So even with the new leadership from the Ricketts clan and all the upgrades and all the bleacher bums that they pissed off because they added all that new signage, you were still like, this is bullshit. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that concludes segment 2.
Yeah, you're done with my Cub bashing. Okay, that's fine.
No, I literally need to pivot to our more important thing in terms of highlights, which I'm grateful that this MLB All-Star game will not be mired by yet another mass shooting. So that concludes segment 2 the Cal Park Bros podcast. Coming up next, we're going to talk about this foiled mass shooting incident that is related to the All-Star game, and also talk about a uptick in events like that. There were also potential tragedies coming up on Cal Park Bros.